today, pressure was on. We didn't really show up. The next 5 games, if they don't get their heads around that level of pressure, then we're in big, big trouble because it won't get any easier in the playoffs start rolling around. It's only going to get harder.
I feel like as much as we've argued in our group chat about whether they tried, whether they put the effort in, whether it was tired legs, it just weren't there. And the second balls, we didn't look like we cared. And maybe it was the wrong choices in the midfield. It was very small, very weak. Every player didn't really seem to put themselves about. We just seemed out of position. I think every single player was out of position at some point today.
Hello, welcome back to the 1885 show. We are hopefully live on YouTube and Twitter. I'm going to apologise to everyone now that's joining. It's the first time we've ever done this, and you'd think we'd trial it first, wouldn't you? But we didn't. We thought it'd be bold and just go through it live. So, guys, welcome back to the 1885 show. You've got myself and Charlie joining you today. There might be a few others as well as we go through the show, so want to keep an eye on. And if not, there'll definitely be more of the guys in the chat as well. This is our first ever live show. So, as I said already, do forgive us if we get the odd technical snag. I'm sure it's going to happen at some stage because you know what we're like. We'll be sending this out as a YouTube show as well at some point, probably tomorrow. So we always say this, but make sure you get yourselves in the comments. We will actually respond to them live so we can see them. We can see them coming through. Anything that we think's worth discussing, any good discussion points, any good topics that we didn't have written down, we'll add it to the show and you can start sort of shaping the agenda for this evening. We will try and follow the usual plot points as well, so we normally go through in our show. So we'll take you through the start 11, we'll take you through the key moments of the game, things like that. We'll just do a slightly different day after Millwall's disappointing game against Norwich. I felt like a good opportunity to change things up a little bit. Maybe not for the right reasons, But joining me today, so far you've got Charlie. Good to have you on, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just got home from the game itself. Still fuming, but you know, got to get on here and vent a little bit of this.
Yeah, hopefully, mate. I mean, hopefully you can hopefully feel a bit better after we go through the show. And Bobby, I can see you just comment saying Borough penalty. If anyone's watching that game and keep us up to date with the score, that'd be really appreciated. I mean, Charlie, we'll go straight into the first segment of the show, mate. We're going to our analysis. But I know we're all disappointed, right? It obviously wasn't the result we was after today. But I've got to say, I think some of the reaction was a little bit strong. I mean, there was a couple of people behind me that were booing, which, in my opinion, is utterly, utterly ridiculous. We've already discussed it, so that you were there, did you, Charlie?
I mean, I sat in the club upper, and to be fair, Riggs as well. He sat down in the lower. I didn't hear any booing. Riggs, said he didn't hear any booing, but you're definitely going to get them. I've seen it before when we've actually played really well, just not got the win, and we get booed off. But you know, I feel like it's the day trippers, the ones that come down for the one-off game because we're actually doing well, not the ones that want to turn up on the Tuesday night when there's only 12, 13,000 down there. Yeah, I don't see why you'd boo off the team. I mean, you can feel frustrated. I feel very frustrated from today's game, and we'll get on to my views. But yeah, there's definitely no reason to boo, especially with the job that we have been doing. There's no way we are where we are based on team performances in terms of like spending and stuff like that. But you know, the team's done so well up until this point. There's no justification for us to boo them.
No, not at all, mate. I've got to say, I think it's probably my biggest issue because like, it weren't a good performance. Let's get that straight off the bat. It weren't the best performance of the season. Based off that, we don't deserve top 2. Let's have it right. No. I mean, that might be a bit strong, bearing in mind where we are and what we've done this year. But based off that 90 minutes, we do not deserve to be second in the Championship. We do not deserve to get promoted. And if we keep playing like that, we won't. But here we are after 41 games, currently in third, might be fourth now. I don't know what depends on the Borough score. But, I mean, some of the reactions, you think, maybe we need to take a little bit of stock of where we actually are and how we've got on so far. And just have a think and just slow down a little bit. Everyone's going to drop points, isn't they, mate?
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like we're at that point where, you know, let's have it right. At the start of the season, we all obviously our expectations of playoffs. We're well exceeding that. So even to
Hmm.
be in a conversation for top two is a expectation that we're obviously reaching. It's a fever dream. We go away to Ipswich to get a great point. Could have won it there. Went to Borough, obviously won it there really well. We've come into this game, and for those that have obviously been going Millwall for the longest time, and it's such a Millwall like performance, such a Millwall display where some of us just knew it. Myself and Jay were outside the ground talking, and everyone's around us saying like you're quite negative. But I feel like if you've been going to Millwall long enough, you know what's going to come. No one expected. I have always thought today was going to be a harder game than the Ipswich and Borough games, just because I know we actually do perform when we play a top side. When we play the mid-table and the lower league teams, then we just don't seem to have the passion and the energy. Maybe it's tired legs. Maybe it's we haven't got the squad depth of quality that we haven't got. But yeah,
Matt, cheers for joining us, mate. I thought you just you snuck on there as Charlie was talking. I mean, I'll go straight to you, I guess. I mean, personally, I don't know. It's a tough one today. I don't think we played our best performance season. I don't think we were as good as we were against maybe Middlesbrough and Ipswich before that. But
No,
Norwich are a good side. Norwich are a good side, aren't they? We're not playing. They're no mugs.
no, evening, boys. You're absolutely right. I mean, it wasn't great. I think there was a lot of laboured performances out there today. I think, we maybe some people's expectations of us turning Norwich over because of their position. Maybe thought
Mhm.
gave them thought, it'd be an easy 3 points. But you're absolutely right. I mean, they've had like a resurgence under Philip Clement, and you can see they were a totally different Norwich team to the one that we played at the start of the season. That's for certain. But yeah, no, disappointing. They're very quick on the counter. Um, Arguably, there might have been a few decisions go our way that should have gone our way, but we can't like moan about that too much. But I thought we were very laboured today, and not everyone was up to their best. Let's just put it like that. And you shouldn't be. I've still not disheartened about it. Normally, you would come away from a game like that like absolutely raging. Get home and first thing you want to do is find that cat. But you, I've come away from that just thinking, yeah, disappointing, but it's not over. It certainly ain't over. That's for certain.
Not at
If
all.
you would have said, all right, you've got 3 points at Borough, which was an amazing achievement, amazing performance. Even a point today, I would have been happy. But yeah, we just weren't at the races today, mate. And we just had to like pick ourselves up now and go again Friday, which is yeah, and that's the cliche, but we've got 5 cup finals now. That's just all we got to say. We've got 5 cup finals if we want to get that second spot. Norwich won't be easy against Ipswich. They'll be
No.
well up for it after today's performance. What was it? I don't know. Borough was 2-1. I heard it was a penalty. I don't know if it's 2-2 now. I don't know. But
2-2 now. Yeah.
well, do you know what? If they get a point, it ain't the end of the world on that one. So it's still there to get 100%. And
Mhm.
you just have to dust ourselves down and start again on Friday. That's all.
No, that's it. And do you know what? This is a group that has been a couple of times this season where we've looked at them and said, you need to turn it around, you need to show up next week. And they always have. So you can't read that them too much. You know what I mean? When we've called them to turn it on and to give us a response after a poor performance, they always have. Whether it's down to individual sort of turning up or this fantastic management we've had from Alex Neil, who really knows? But they've always done it. And I mean, you mentioned Ipswich. Just looking at their fixtures, they've got Norwich, Portsmouth, Middlesbrough, Charlton, West Brom, Southampton. They've got 3 games in there that you would say are really, really tough games. They've got Portsmouth away, tough game, because they're fighting for their lives. They've got West Brom away, as do we, to be fair. That's a tough game. They're fighting for their lives. I mean, they haven't got the easiest fixture schedule themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, they will drop points. And I think the thing for me is before the start of the game, I was looking at the league table thinking, if we can get to 84 points, I think we get second. And after today, I still think that. I still think 84 points will be enough. Teams will drop points, whether that's Ipswich, Borough, us. We will all drop points. We've still got all to play for. And I guess I'll go back to it. I thought some of the reaction was a little bit over the top. I get frustration. I mean, me and Charlie spoke about it offline, didn't we? I mean, Charlie, you was pretty angry, right? It's pretty frustrated with the performance.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
but there's a fine line, isn't there?
I was more annoyed today than I was Blackburn. I feel like maybe because Blackburn, you knew you was being cheated out of the game, and like 1-0 up, we don't get that red
100%.
card. We go on and win that 2-3-0. Today, I feel like they, as much as we've argued in our group chat about whether they tried, whether they put the effort in, whether it was tired legs, it just weren't there. And the second balls, we didn't look like we cared. And maybe it was the wrong choices in the midfield. It was very small, very weak. Every player didn't really seem to put themselves about. We just seemed out of position. I think every single player was out of position at some point today, and especially the fullbacks. And then like Sturge kept coming inside, kept getting like drawn out wide. Then we just kept getting overlap, like in the midfield, over controlled, over muscled. Just didn't have that fight that we would normally have. And we can't blame the fact that Billy Mitchell's not there, because that's one player in that midfield. And all right, Casper's come back from injury. And to be fair to him, out of the 3 players that are out of the squad today that I would say actually put a bit in is himself, Casper Denor, Barry Bannon, and Negley, which is, Negley's obviously a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a casual thing for Negley to have a working hard performance. But, even Bannon, like when he was on the ball, he seemed to be the only player trying to create and trying to make things happen. And with Denor, he was trying, but obviously it was kind of hard having a Kundal next to him who offered absolutely nothing today. It was better when we had 2 up front. Ivanovic, obviously, hopefully after that goal, we look forward, things can go forward. As soon as we scored, it was like, right, relax. And then I can't even get you started on the long throws. The long throws is the reason we've lost today. Those long throws the long throw is the reason why we've conceded. For some reason, we're 1-0 up. And as much as especially me in recent weeks, saying about how Alex Neil is very productive, he doesn't defend and sit for a result. Maybe today was a result that he should have done. Maybe going 1-0 up, maybe he throws in Derek into that midfield for a body instead of, continuing with the way it went and seeing the game out rather than looking at it. Because we scored from a chance that we wasn't really in the game up until that point. So it weren't like we was, breaking into that game. I don't think a second half, we always start off quite lively, but in the sense of where the goal came from, it was actually probably the only part of the game today when we actually strung 3-4 passes together. There's not another part in that game where I think we had another chance. There was no other chances in the game for us.
No, there weren't. Yeah, you're right.
We were lucky again, like we normally have been in the first half, to not go in 2-3-0 down. And to be fair, we didn't deserve to win today. We didn't even deserve to draw. So, I'm fuming. But again, I'm going up to the Hawthorns, expecting to bounce back like we have done all season. But it's still hard to. I'm more fuming today than I was against Blackburn.
Boys, let's go put a couple of comments up, so I want to get your thoughts on them. First one's from Dan Riggs, obviously part of the show, so go to everyone. That should be on screen now. Couldn't string 2 basic passes together today. We were second best from the off, second to everything. They wanted it more. Too many players, not the races for me. It's hard to disagree with too much of that. I don't think we played particularly well. I don't think we moved the ball well enough at all, particularly in the first half. And to Dan's point, we were seconds to way too many second balls. Like we did get bullied in that midfield a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the one bit I don't particularly agree on is that they wanted it more. I don't think they wanted it more. I can't. Maybe this is me trying to be just positive, and boys, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I can't believe in myself that after 41 games this season, sitting second in the league, that anyone wanted it more than us today. I don't think it's a will issue. I don't think it's not players not trying or not being up for it. I think they might have been nervous. I think there might have been like the degree of failing to perform under that level of pressure. But I don't think they didn't want it. And what's your two? What do you two think?
No, I agree. I think they would have been up for it. Home crowd, bumper crowd. I think what was also missing is something that we, as Mill fans on away days, relate to. Is that when you got 3,000 strong behind the goal, your game goes up to 5%. I mean, Clement said, I'm driving home on the radio. Clement said that was their best performance since he's been in charge. So you think if you're playing a team like us who are on a high, and you bring 3,000 strong, sun's out, they fair play. They didn't stop singing from minute one. They were singing and singing constantly, and that's going to void you. He's going to void you. That as a player, that will raise 5% of the game up. So take that a little bit as well. The fact that they've upped their game today. And they were only 9 points off plus. I don't know where they are now from the playoffs. So and they're trying
6. So it was 6 when we left the ground. It was 6.
So you got because you got the Wrexham game tomorrow, haven't you? Yeah. So and they're singing Ipswich Town, we're coming for you. So they're obviously on it. As I said, they're on the crest of a wave. They're no mugs, as we said. But no, I just think you're right. We weren't ready for the second ball. There was a lot of staticness. 100%, there was a lot of staticness. And you're right. There was no plan B of the throw-in scenario. It was an absolute. It was getting a bit laborious, boring. You're throwing a ball. It's not getting past the first man. For work, if it's going to hit Taylor or Cooper, they're going to get pushed over. And and modern day football nowadays, you're getting nothing for that in the penalty box. So I think Norwich would have been spurred on by the 3,000 travelling support they brought with them today, and that's another reason why we probably wasn't expecting that. And it is what it is. We just got to, as I said, we just got to make sure that we do that on our away days. I know we're going to bring 2,500 or just over 2,000 at West Brom. I dare say, even the way it's going, Stoke on a Tuesday night will probably might get 1,000 if you like 1,500 up there, and then obviously the Gary Rowe at Swansea on that Friday night will be another couple of thousand. So we'll do what the Norwich fans done today. We'll bring a good travelling army, and we'll get the extra 5% to the fans at home. But we have to change it at home. It's going to be vociferous. It's going to be a nice sellout again, or a QPR. And then obviously it's the last game of the season come Oxford time, which could be a make or break. I don't want it to be a make or break. I'd rather it be sort of done and dusted by then. But the fans, as I say, fair play to the Norwich fans. They were definitely given their team that extra 5% motivation to beat us today. And you could just tell on that counter attack that running towards them, especially for the second goal, I thought it was offside, but it wasn't after watching it. It was me just get caught up in the moment at the time. But yeah, you just think those travelling support would have absolutely spurred Norwich on. And again, we've done it to teams on our away days. Hence why we're like one of the best teams in the division from away from home. We just need to transfer that to the home form at the moment, because that's unfortunately that is what's stopping us. So
it's it is a funny one, I think, because I do think there's a degree of like, I'm not 100% sure why the home form has dropped off like it has. It doesn't feel like it's a particularly difficult place to play at the minute. I'm not really sure where that's come from, to be honest with you. Charlie, I don't get. What's your thoughts on the home form?
I think it's a mixture of the teams we're playing. I feel like you also got to take that into account. But I think even the crowd, again, there's only parts in our game where we're loud and we're actually singing a song. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, I remember being in sellouts where it's ferocious, especially like, let's take it to FA Cup days, like against Leicester, Brighton, Everton. Those type of crowds, you're not gonna come to Millwall. And like you said, Matt, about Norwich being loud or whatever, that shuts them down. They're not gonna out-sing us. Whereas today, we've got outsung from the stands. When they weren't going our way, as you said, Frank, you heard booing at the end. I just feel like it's such we're at a stage now in Millwall where you're getting the people coming out because we're doing well. So it's not a sellout full of passionate Millwall fans. I see blokes eating ice creams, and like I generally are so confused. I don't understand what's going on. Why are you eating an ice cream during the game? But sure. Like you're not there. You're not singing the crowd on. I remember I actually started a chant during the game, and someone else said like, "Why are you starting a chant?" I was like, "There's no one's singing." Like it was generally
ridiculous.
dry.
Yeah.
It was dry at times. Like sing them on. But then I feel like it always depends on how the game is going as well. Do you know what I mean? Like first halves have been so dire, so drastic in recent games, home and away, where if that first half isn't going well, that second half, we come out so the crowd is already at a point where if we don't start well in the first 10, 15, the crowd's on your back.
Where's the booing?
It's an interesting one, mate.
Where was the booing? Because
I was in 3, and there was definitely a couple people behind me that I could hear, and the person I was with heard it as well. So there was definitely some people.
Yes.
Do you know what? Hopefully, if
Mate.
neither of you heard it, hopefully there's only 1 or 2 people, and my perception of some of that was obviously being a bit guided by that, I guess. And hopefully it was a sort of a one-off. But
There
I
was
mean,
more chance going towards Joe Bryan than anyone else.
yeah, I mean, yeah, less said the better, I guess. There's a comment here from Dan I just want to flash up on screen as well. It's do they feel the pressure more at home with where we're at? I think it's an interesting observation, and I think there's probably something in that. What I would say is, Matt, you touched on this earlier. We would all like Oxford's the Oxford game to be a bit of a dead rubber. It's done. We're second. That's not going to be the case. It is going to go down to final game of the season. That is the reality of the situation we're in. And Alex Neil made a comment on Saturday after Middlesbrough, talk about players like sort of teams bottling it, and said that this team's got bottle and this team shows up. I'm not going to disagree with him, but I do think this team struggles when the pressure is massively on. We've seen it a couple of times, and it's not just been this team. It's Mill historically. We struggle when the pressure's on. The Blackburn game, the 4-3, pressure's on. We struggled. The Blackburn game the other week, we could have got second place. We didn't because we lost against Blackburn again. Today, pressure was on. We didn't really show up. The next 5 games, if they don't get their heads around that level of pressure, then we're in big, big trouble because it won't get any easier in the playoffs start rolling around. It's only going to get harder, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be quite difficult if we get in the playoffs, if I'm honest with you. I really do think it's difficult. I think there's some good teams are coming into form at this time of the season. All right, we're one of them. But yeah, I mean, going back to what you said, Charlie, about those FA Cup games as well with the crowd and all that, what you got to realise back then, mate, is we were League One. We were like, we were the dog and duck versus sort of like the semi-pro team. And therefore the crowd loved the crowd. It's a classic. The crowd loves an underdog, don't they? So that's probably the difference is there now, is that we are not the underdogs in certain games. Arguably the best atmosphere and performance to match. The last one was actually the Charlton home game, you probably could say. But again, that didn't even come to life until the last 10, 15 minutes of that game, really. So when they had a glorious chance to miss, and they did. So, but yeah, no, I think, I mean, a lot of people have probably still got that PTSD of the Blackburn game. But it's a different. I mean, there's not many players in that team today that were playing in that game, and therefore it should be a case of, right, well, you haven't got to think about that all the time. You just got to play your game, play how you play how the manager wants you to play, and we'll get over the line. But again, it's some kind of hoodoo. That even back in the last, it was last season, wasn't it? When we had, I think it was the game after JB sadly passed, and it was the Bristol City, big crowd, bumper
Bristol
crowd,
City.
and we didn't show up. It's just ever since then, isn't it? Really, anything that we get a crowd that's more than 17, 18,000 plus, legs wobble, and it's or people's mindset is not right. So yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? And to be fair, I mean, you would have thought, a roaring crowd. Yeah, you have got a different sort of clientele of Millwall fans now from back in the mid-90s, late 90s, 2000s, so to speak, where, they were diehards. You have got like the travelling, like tourism fans now that come down, and family, more and more families, which is, from a business point of view, it's great for the club. But that sort of classic Denny's a fortress it's starting to slowly dwindle. But that's modern football nowadays, isn't it, really? Unless you want to go down to sort of like the lower leagues again, it's going to be like that for the foreseeable. But, it'll be just great if we can, you're right, just rally the crowd up, just get them going, start chants and everyone can sing. I mean, normally we have a Monks chant that starts for a good 5-10 minutes in the second half, and it doesn't happen. I mean, you hear it, that it just dies out after like 30 seconds to a minute. Normally we've had Monks charts that go for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. And it's just sort of like in a process of transition now with how the fan base is now. But you know, it's but it's the modern times of football these days. It is what it is. It is modern football.
I think the thing for me that was disappointing to not today was walking around Marblock anyway. It didn't feel like a tourist crowd. Do you know what I mean? It weren't like your sellouts when there's 5,000 tourists there and maybe 14,000 diehard Millwall. It didn't feel like that. It actually felt like there was a lot of fans there that maybe were lapsed Millwall supporters that got tickets from mates and that sort of thing, and they were really there. I know there's a lot of talk before the game about people struggling to get tickets for the upcoming final home games, but the atmosphere weren't really there. I do think a lot of that was we didn't touch the ball for the first 5. And I do think that, if we're then nervous, they're nervous, and we all feed off each other, right? We feed off players, they feed off us. And that didn't help. The first real moment where I actually thought, it's getting a bit lively here was when, I want to say it's McLean, started getting into it a little bit with Alex Neil in the first half. And my first thought was, what a silly, silly boy. Like you're 5 minutes away from half time and you're creating a bit of drama. It's riding everyone up. You think, what a stupid thing to do. It felt very like Jed Wallace against West Brom sort of antics. And you think, that's ridiculous. Luckily for Norwich, it was in half time 2 minutes later, and it was sort of then died to death again. But the crowd is disappointing. I do think it plays a factor. Not the biggest factor, don't get me wrong, but it's something that needs to be addressed. But we'll move into our next segment then. So, start at 11. Two changes for Millwall from the victory away at Middlesbrough. Patterson deservedly stayed in goal, Cranmer at right back, Cooper and Taylor at centre back, Sturge left back. In midfield, due to an injury to Billy Mitchell before the game, which I do actually think had a huge impact on how the game played out. I think we've really missed his legs in there. Bannon got the start next to Casper Denor. Aziz, right wing. Kundal, second change, he come in for Ivanovic, who went into the 10. Negley out left and Josh Coburn up top. Boys, it'd be good to get your thoughts to start 11. We all talk about Alex Neil getting changes right at half time, but I've got to say, personally, I didn't actually like the 11 today. I thought most of it kind of selected itself. Obviously, the back 5, you weren't going to change. The midfield was a forced change. You had to do it. Coburn for Ivanovic just did not work. I don't know why he made that change, and I think that was a big factor as to why we were so poor in that first half. I don't know what you two think.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I felt like you're looking at teams who I feel like we have people in the club who are going to be doing scouting and looking at what they're going to be doing. And we were talking a lot about when it was a Pompey game about, Ibu Adams, and he's going to basically run through that midfield, and it's exactly what he did. And I feel like today it was exactly the same thing. It was, that Norwich are going to be quick on the counter and be very, very dominant and aggressive in that midfield. You've played 3 of the smallest people with no aggressiveness about there's no physicality in there at all, and Kundal was obviously brought in to kind of be the mixture between a press and obviously a player that we haven't really found anyone that could play in that 10 role, and I still disagree with anyone playing in that 10 role at this point. I would rather put in another midfielder that's going to be there like a Derek, that's literally going to sit there and just sweep side to side rather than having someone in 10. But he didn't even press, and he wasn't even getting on the ball. He weren't offering nothing in general. So Kundal basically came in and had 45 minutes of just jogging around chasing the shadows. And I would have rather us have dropped Negley into a 3 and put Watson out wide and had 2 direct wingers playing, regardless if it would have worked or not. But in theory, you would have had 2 direct wingers to play out from and Negley sweeping in and out between the press. But, I don't understand the lineup. I just don't see. So I said sometimes we were quick enough to praise Alex Neil for what he does do right. I feel like it's quick enough, but he needs to be also quick enough to say, he got that one wrong, which is very rare. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like we haven't got an aggressive, a box to box sweeper in there. We just don't. The same way we don't have a 10, but we still somehow keep trying to find someone that's going to play a 10. I feel like next week I may as well turn up in full kit. I might get a go in a 10. Like, it's just no one can play there. So stop playing a 10. Either play the 2 up front or you play 3 in the middle.
Matt, what's your thoughts on this, mate? Because I actually think we, and this is where it baffles me a little bit, we do have 10s. If you look at our squad, Bannon is arguably a 10. Kundal is definitely a 10. Negley was signed to be a 10. all of them, though, have played in that role, and all of them have massively, massively struggled. So to Charlie's point, why do we keep persisting with it? You know, like just stop playing them
Yeah,
or play them somewhere else.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, the first and foremost is with regards to the team selection. I think we need to understand how the players' recovery are from Friday. You know, what percentage of peaks they were. Obviously, they were. We could blame that they might have been jet lagged after the flight down from Newcastle to London. But no, I mean, I was disappointed with Kundal. I think Kundal was would be a good 10. You know, every time he's come on, he's shown promise and scored some good goals, some important goals. So I was disappointed with him. I personally would have probably had Janor just hold a little bit in that middle, and I would have actually stuck Niggly in the middle of the park. So I wouldn't even play Bannon. I think Bannon is better coming off the bench at the moment, just because he's got that brain. And obviously, when the game's sort of like either he's drifted away, he can come on. And then obviously I would have put I would have actually maybe. I mean, I know he runs around a little bit, but I would have actually put Langstaff on in that 10 today, just to share it up, because when I mean, obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing, it really. But I mean, when you watch them play Norwich, they were a little bit at sea. Goalkeeper was like trying to spread, and this is the modern football where the goalkeeper wants to spread the ball and pass it. Coburn is running his absolute socks off again, trying to chase down, and Kundal wasn't doing it. Whereas Langstaff would have run. I mean, yeah, he may not have got the ball, but you know, it's implying the pressure. So I personally would have had him on, as opposed to Bannon, and put Negley, and put Negley in the sort of like in the midfield, and put Langstaff on the left. And I would have stuck with Kundal, but as I said, I was really, really disappointed with him. Watson at the moment, I haven't seen anything that, you know, says, and grant he's 19 or he's 20 a kid. All right. So it's a lot for him to take on. So I haven't seen nothing that says to me, bloody hell, this kid actually took Sunderland up, scoring the winner at Wembley. And probably the expectation for him is somewhat high as well from that, resulting goal that he did last year. But yeah, he hasn't done anything to say, well, are you worthy of a starting point? I was interested to see Leonard on the bench. So I don't know how close he was to fitness. If he, would you have just put Leonard in that midfield, and just been that sort of like block, just to do the Billy Mitchell,
just a bit of presence,
role.
mate. Yeah.
Just do that Billy Mitchell role, which, all right, he's box to box, but he might be a little bit slower than normal, but at least his brain would have been a little bit more with it. So, could have that been an option? So, yeah, he might have not got that team right, but we just didn't know how the conditions are with these players, really. They did put all that on Friday, and I think obviously it's backfired today. But yeah, no, I think, I mean, I like Negley a lot, and I think he's come on leaps and bounds in the last 6 to 8 months. But I would have stuck him in the middle of the park today. But as to the answer about the number 10 role, we do. There's players that ain't even in the squad now that could play in that role, and yeah, it just seems to be like the hoodoo at the moment that we don't have a person that wants to cement himself as the number 10 for Millwall. Hence why we go up to the 2 up top, and then we get rid of the 10. But I don't know. I'll say I was disappointed with Kundal today. He just didn't seem to be. I thought he'd be up for it, fresh, got this opportunity, rightly so, he got cooked at half time.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I mean, Dan's put a comment here about we've got the 10s, but just aren't there for the battle. They're all built wrong. They don't really get stuck in much. I don't disagree. I think all of our 10s are undersized and all quite similar profiles. And that's maybe where we start to struggle, because actually, if you look at Kundal and Negley, I think Negley's a better player, but they are quite similar in terms of they both want to get the ball to feet, both want to do little flicks, both want to work in the pocket, but neither, and they both work quite hard, actually. They both run around a little bit. Negley's definitely got the edge on Kundal in that sense. But you do think to yourself, imagine if we had a Fleming in there, right? And I know we're going back and we talk about ex-players. We try not to do that on this show, but if you had a Fleming in there where you could sit there and I think personally the biggest issue with the 10s that they have for me, our football is so direct. We go into Coburn so often that it must be hard to be a player where we're sitting there going, we've got to play through that player. I don't think we've got the technical ability to find them. From the defence and from the players behind that 10, whether it be the centre fielders or the defenders. I just don't think we've got the ability to play into them, into their feet or into them little pockets in dangerous areas. And I think that's where they struggle. But I think the solution is so simple. If we can't do it, stop forcing it. Stop forcing it. Just change to a 2 up top. The 2 up top has worked. And you can argue it worked again today. I thought in the second half, I mean, I'll take Charlie's point, we weren't exactly posing much of a threat. But I think the 2 up largely stopped Norwich's threat. It stopped them being able to tear forward as much as they were. We were able to push them a lot, but press them a lot higher up the pitch, which we weren't doing in the first half. I think it feels like such a simple answer. Just go back to that 2 up top and where they work well together. Yeah, disappointing. I mean, was there anything else to start 11 you boys want to call out, or do you think we've covered it?
I think we've covered it, to be fair.
I think we covered it, mate, to be fair.
Cool. Right, okay, so we'll move on to our next segment then, which is the key moments. I think it's fair to say that the game started all Norwich, didn't it, really? I don't think we actually touched the ball, really, like the first 15 minutes. If you want a stat for that, in the first 15 minutes of the game, Norwich had 77% of the ball. I know we don't really like stats, and possession can be a bit of a useless stat itself, but when we're talking about the crowd not settling, we're talking about the crowd getting nervous and the players feeling nervous. Having that little of the ball in the first 50 minutes of the game just does not help the situation at all, does it? The game then hits a bit of a lull until Gvidskarsken, I want to say. I probably absolutely butchered that. If he's listening, I apologise. I doubt he is. It goes clean through. Good save by Patterson. Stands up well and makes a save. I mean, Matt, what's your first thoughts on that save from Patterson, mate?
Well, big, strong presence, which that's what he is really. He didn't do much to warrant a make a good save. He had to just make himself big. Opened his body up really well. And just made sure that save was done really. But I have noticed he is good for like shot stopping. Commanding these areas and others is maybe a different different topic of conversation. But no, he made good stuff. Listen, he's a good goalkeeper. He's arguably for his age one of the best we've had for his age. That's give him another 2-3 years of him maturing, developing. He will be top 10.
Yeah.
Top 10 in Prem, 100%.
That high?
So, yeah. I mean, I think so. I think there's a good standard of young British goalkeepers coming through now, and he's one of them. And I could just definitely see him sort of like getting better and better. That's why I was like really happy to see when we actually we got him on the loan. But back to the save, he in the goalkeeping sense, that's a simple save. That's routine. That should be right. Well, you're in the way. He's through on goal. Yes, he got sort of like a little bit leaned by I think it's Kudel, but pushed him a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was there. But you have to be there to warrant that save, and that's for me it was a good save. Well, I mean, I'm probably the biggest nitpicker ever in terms of goalkeepers because I'll be like, everyone's clapping well saved, but that's routine. That's a routine save, but it is a good routine save because you've got to be there to block the shot.
I thought he did well to stand up and not sort of overcommit himself, and that's probably where I was impressed. Maybe I've got a really low standard for goalkeeping after watching Ben at the start of the year. But I mean, Charlie, what was your first thought? Yeah, there you go. But Charlie, what was your first thoughts on the opening 22 minutes, mate? It was a bit of a flat performance, wasn't it? Not a great start.
I think the pressure and the performance in terms of the first 20 came from our defence. I feel like Cooper and Sturge, I can't count how many times they just gave it away or kicked it out for a throw-in. And just kept giving the ball away or little silly mistakes, or we kept going side to side to side to side, and then Cooper just huffs it up, and again we lose the ball. So I feel
Uh-huh.
like, especially with us, we play direct, but when you play like that and your passes aren't connected and you're not trusting Bannon or Denord to take it on that half turn, then you're just gonna keep losing the ball. It's gonna keep coming back at you. So the first 20 minutes kind of set up like that. Sturge and Cooper, I think between them just kept making mistakes, and I think
Yeah.
Sturge got caught out a lot down that side. He kept coming inside to help the midfield, and then
Why was he
kind of,
doing that? Why was he doing that in the first half?
I think the winger on his side kept coming inside, and then the fullback was the one that kept actually finding himself in the space.
Yeah,
So I feel
McLean would drop, and then
yeah.
Stacey would take the space.
Yeah. So now
But
Stacey had a few chances but I think it's because Sturge obviously followed his man, but realistically he could have just passed him off to the winger or to the centre mid. But yeah, we kept getting caught out. But going back to the save, it was a P roller. I'll be real. I was right behind the goal. It was Cooper done all of the work. He moved him off the ball. It was more like a scuff. It just rolled towards Patterson. If it's the one that I'm thinking of when he ran in behind.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a P roller. It was literally all Coops, to be fair. But as you said, Patterson made himself big. Obviously, made him probably think about the shot and delayed it. But I think Cooper had done majority of that to kind of stop that shot. But yeah,
I'm sure Andy Patterson won't agree with you, mate.
Or me.
But but I mean, we then get into the Mill's first chance of the game, which I'll say chance was loose. First shot of the game in the 31st minute. Aziz gets half a chance to the right hand side, sort of beats two men, bit of skill, a little bit of luck. Has a shot from distance on his left foot, bit of a P roller to be honest with you, goes harmlessly wide. And then straight from that, Norwich again should take the lead, as we literally just mentioned. Stacey gets forward down their right hand side, our left. Somehow from on the edge of the 6-yard box, he manages to drag it wide. And you're thinking, Jesus Christ, this is not going well, is it? But we didn't actually then get another chance pretty much straight off the back of that. We, say Tristan Kramer had a header, go just wide of the post. And then Norwich go forward again. And again, should score 2 minutes later from there. Whatever the guy's name was, McLean somehow doesn't steer it home from 2 yards out. Kenny, that's the one. Thank you very much. Again, another good save from Patterson, but I think it's from where the position was and where the shot was taken. I think Patterson was sitting there thinking that was actually quite a comfortable little collect, and will be counting his lucky stars, right? Just a terrible, terrible first half, boys, wasn't it? And that goal did live a bit of a charmed life.
Yeah, it's a terrible half, but I feel like we've come to expect a mediocre first half, and especially the last few games, we've been lucky to go in either 0-0 or 1-0. So I expected a big kind of change around you. Obviously, you have that optimism that the second half is going to be better, which it kind of did start better, obviously, but I feel like, again, we made the own mistakes, and obviously Norwich were good, don't get me wrong, but some of the things we could have stopped both their goals, because both goals came from counters from our own mistakes.
True. I mean, Matt, what was your thoughts, mate, on that first half in total?
I just really looked nervous. I really did. I mean, as I said, you've Charlie, you mentioned about Cooper and Sturge there. I mean, I think Sturge has been a very, very good goalkeeper, left back, and but there was just the passing was weak. There wasn't enough effort in the pass, and they, as I said, laboured, tired. The passing just looked reckless. There was times where we had the ball, and really, truthfully, to reset, just clear it, get your banks back up, but then we were trying to play the ball out, trying to do tricks and flicks, and when really, truthfully, the best thing you could do is just get rid of the ball, reset, expect the next wave to come towards you. But no, it was a very we lived a charmed life in that first half, definitely. And I mean, there was an opportunity in the first half where Coburn was through, and from where I was, I mean, I'm near you, Frankie. He got pulled back by the centre half, and that was
100%.
For me, that was a penalty. Would it have been different if that was happened? Because I know the centre half did get booked for kicking the ball away, so he was living a charmed life. So that probably and Coburn was getting absolutely manhandled. I mean, it was absolutely, he's borderline embarrassing sometimes when you're watching him try and fend off. And then and when he's fending them off, he gives away a free kick. I don't want to go on about I don't want to go on about the officiating, because at the end of the day, I feel like a broken record sometimes. But no, if those chances happen, and we've got a few bit of the rubber to green on those decisions, probably a bit different. But apart from that, no, there was no sort of like spice in that first half. As I say, our chances were very, very tame. But yeah, we just seem to be making our own mistakes at the moment, allowing them to come at us. Trying to play that ball out. But yeah, even some of the passing was as I say, was tiring. Very poor. The passing round the back between Patterson, Taylor, Cooper, Sturge, back to Crammer. Yes, it's nice that we're building that play up, but the more you do that, the more the opposition are coming closer and closer to you. We are not at that position yet where we are that comfortable doing that. And I'll be really, really honest. And that's no disrespect to our players, but we're just not there yet. We can't play that system until we get a bit more confident, and it was proof sometimes when we took 2 or 3 touches to actually just get that ball under control. Then we released the ball, we put the other player we pulled our fullbacks under the pressure, which subsequently both fullbacks, in my opinion, didn't have a great game. Really, really don't think so.
No,
obviously, you put
both poor. Yeah.
Two fullbacks that are playing poor, they're going to lose the ball. They're going to get dispossessed, therefore putting added pressure on us. So, yeah, the first half was, as I say, we did have a bit of a charm life. Their opportunities were very tame. I think, as I said, the one that the lad put across the goal, Charlie Robb behind the goal, from a goalkeeping perspective, Patterson, his angles were right, maybe, forced the lad to hook it, swing it wide. You just don't, no, I don't know from where I was sitting, but yeah, no, just shit. Basically,
It was, yeah, it was.
But we're subject to these sort of performances. We always are. Nothing changes, nothing's different. It's Millwall.
It is an interesting one, mate. Cause the person I was sitting with, I said to them in the first half, I almost got the impression that Norwich sort of took a bit of a look at us and went, "These aren't very good with the ball," and they were pushing so high. In normal time, their back four was on the halfway line consistently. Not just for like set piece and stuff. They really did step on and make the pitch small and make us play in our half. Almost like they were sitting there going, "Well, you haven't got the technical ability to do anything with it. So if you have got the ball, there's no danger here." And the only times we actually really did we had a bit of a threat was when we went a bit longer, normally out to or straight into Coburn, or normally out wide to Aziz. But it was certainly a laboured first half. But we do get the customary half-time Alex Neil adjustment, and we go to a bit more of a 4-4-2, which I think was the right thing to do. It was much improved after that from that moment on. Despite a really, really poor first half, we ended up getting the breakthrough ourselves in the 56th minute. So it was some lovely little interplay on the right-hand side. I want to say it was Aziz, Kramer and Denor. Denor swings the ball in. It's a great ball. And Ivanovic on the spot to turn it home. And after a terrible first-half performance, we're all thinking, "Right, we've done it again, boys. We're back in business in the second half, and we're all dreaming of 3 points." Weren't to be, but good goal, right, Charlie?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's the only time in the game where we actually put 3-4 passes together of some kind of interest to go forward. I feel like, especially half the time we picked up in midfield and we'd kind of go back towards Cooper and try and restart from there. But we picked it up. We played nice intricate balls. I actually think Denor, I haven't seen it back, but from where I've seen it, he looked like he was just off. But
he was on.
Through.
He was on. I've checked it. It's going to come back. Yeah, he's on.
Yeah, but yeah, he finds some space on that little outside on the wing, which again is quite a position he's already not normally found in. And he puts a great ball in. Ivanovic is probably harder to miss than to score. And it's really good that Ivanovic has scored today, and hopefully it's something that gives him that confidence going forward. I think I saw someone on X earlier this season or this week, sorry, saying if we can get Ivanovic and Coburn firing at the same time, then the playoffs are in with a good chance. And again, Coburn didn't score today, but he played well and did what he had to do. And if we can get Ivanovic for firing, then when he's on form, one of the best strikers in the league, especially clinical wise. And yeah, so it's a good chance for him. He scores again. We all think, even myself, me and Callum were going crazy in the crowd, and then yeah, we just seemed to. It very felt like the Harris and Rowett days when we would go 1-0 up and we just said, okay, let's sit back. But we just kept leaving gaps everywhere after that. For me, I thought from that moment, I thought, right, we've scored from a position of we haven't really been. It wasn't a case of like we were going chance after chance after chance. It did kind of come from
Yeah.
a break in play and we scored from it. So for me, it would have made more sense to take someone off and put a body in that midfield. But I take Bannon off, put Derek in. Have more of a kind of bruiser and more of a break in play to I would have happily seen out 1-0 and it'd been a 10 minutes than us obviously now throwing away another 3 points. So.
I think he would have. I think if we got close enough to the final whistle at 1-0,
Yeah,
we
no,
could
of course.
actually yeah.
Well, as I said, Harris and Brown would have from that moment on put Hutchinson or Murray Wallace in the 5 back and sat in and from the 57th minute.
Back six, ugly football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with I'm not saying we should have done that, but we should have definitely at least changed it to a point where we're more stronger or at least just stop going forward. I said Sturge had 4 throw-ins, none of them beat the first man. He goes for it again. He had Negley right next to him. I was shouting for him to throw it to Negley. Throws it long, we get done from that exact same throw-in. So it's only down to the. But again, surely at some point we need to stop doing these. There's not one player apart from Ryan Leonard who actually has a long throw in the team.
Even that's not that long, mate.
No,
Compared
it's
to
not even
like
that long.
some of them, do you know what I mean? It's just.
But I could understand it if it was Leonard on doing it because you're like, okay, he can launch him sometimes. But Sturge can't. We see it week in, week out, home and away. He can't beat the first man. And even when we do, we seem to put Cooper and Kramer at the back post and Taylor at the front. So you're only throwing it for one person. If you don't reach him, you're fucked.
Yeah, and you never are going to reach him, are you? But I mean, moving on to their goal, then we did take the lead, but unfortunately, it didn't last very long. In between that time period, I've got to say, I think between our goal and theirs, I do think we looked the better side. I actually did think we've settled here a little bit. Actually, it's been a much better second half than the first. And whilst to Charlie's point, I don't think we were going to get a second. I didn't see Norwich scoring. That wasn't until they've hit an absolute thunderbolt into the top right corner on the 62nd minute. And again, I've got to say, I don't take any pleasure in this, but it was quite a well-worked goal from Norwich. They moved the ball nicely. Started on the right-hand side, worked it the whole way across the back four, got it out to her left, created an overlap, played to the edge of the area. Was way too much space from your perspective. But credit where credit's due, the strike is phenomenal, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, no, it was a good goal. I think, again, when we're tracking back and we're defending that back line, you do see the back line and plus the 2 centre midfields. Definitely the 2 centre midfields are way too deep. And as I said, if you play 2 up top and you lose that 10, that area where the lads scored, Christopher, whatever his name is, that 10 would have been in that position. So you can't, you can't have it where you've got a 10, but from an attacking front, but then you lose a 10, you've lost that defensive side of things. But yeah, it was a good goal. It was a really, really good goal, and like top corner. It was absolutely a well worked goal. He didn't even put laces for it. He knew where he was hitting it, and
it's caressed it in top corner.
Yeah, which is no one's saving it. To be fair, that is you just got to take your hat off and just go, fair play, good goal. But you're right. I mean, when we scored, I did say to my boy next to me, I said, "We need another one here," because there was no way we could hold on to a 1-0. I said we needed a second goal, and I was hoping, we score one, get another one nice and quick, and that would have buoyed the crowd. But it was it is what it is with that, and but yeah. We should have done better. We should have maybe closed them down. But I think we do seem to be deep in terms of the midfield defensively, literally on top of our back four, so to speak, which subsequently have pushed back even further, which probably is on the feet of the goalkeeper. So it's sort of like we are really, really compressed in that 18-yard box.
Yeah.
And then we allow shots like that, because that's not the first time we've had goals against us from players that have scored from the edge of the 18 box. Birmingham away, Portsmouth away. I've
Portsmouth,
named already. So, there's
Portsmouth at home as well. Yeah.
Portsmouth exactly. So that's that's a flaw that we need to sort of like address uh, as a team. But yeah, can't take it. Can't take the goal away from the lads. But yeah, we should have been a bit better closing that person down.
No, it's a frustrating one, mate, because I actually do think that if they didn't score a goal like that, I think we would have seen it out. I thought we actually did feel quite comfortable at that point. They score the goal they score. It's absolutely thunderbolt. Can't take nothing away from the lads.
Mm.
And we are, unfortunately, right back to square one. At that point, I got to say, between them and their second goal, the game just felt a bit flat. I said to the person I was sitting with, I can only see Norwich winning this, I've got to say. Like, I just didn't see Millwall getting a second. We didn't really carry any threat. Not that Norwich carried much themselves, to be honest, but they just had more input on the ball, I think, and they seemed to have more energy, which we definitely didn't have. And then in the 76th minute, it counted, I guess. And to Charlie's point, so I got hand straight over to Charlie. It comes from a long throw that's not all that long at all. They counter, and it's 2-1 Norwich, and it's a ridiculous goal to concede, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously touched on it a few times now in the live, but yeah, I just don't see, after doing it 3 times, it doesn't work. You then do it again, and the fact that you've brought up all 3 centre, well, I say Crumb as a centre back in this situation, but obviously you brought up 3 of the back 4. The 4th is taking the throw in. You brought up the whole back line, and then if we've been counted, you can't complain about it. You can't. There's no issue. We deserve to counter from it. It's a great counter, really good pace. The player's actually done really well at the end to to get the assist. He's just passed it across the goal, but at an angle where it's cut off most of the centre backs trying to block the shot. So it's a well worked counter. Norwich deserved it, and again, there's not really much more to say apart from the long throws need to stop.
Well, there was a throw-in before the long throw, actually, which it did make me laugh. It's not funny, but there was the the bit before that we got like sort of 3 throws right after one after the other, and every single one we pumped it into box, and every single one come back. We were just slowly working our way backwards. For every single one of them throws, we had 4 people outside the area. 4, which from an attacking position and for a long throw, which we treat almost like a corner, to have that many people outside the box is a lot, almost too many. And then the one we conceded, we had 1 person back. You think, how have we gone from 4 people, all not in a penalty area, 1 was on the edge, 2 deep, to then 1 person? Like,
Yeah, and the
that's
funniest part
incredible.
is the 1 person we have is 36-year-old Barry Brennan.
Yeah,
He's got no legs. Like, bless him, he's chased the guy down the whole length and a half, and he's still trying to put a block in, but he can't catch him. Like, I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, it's I can only assume it's a bad miscommunication, because if it's not that,
I do get it. Like, from set pieces, we are obviously a big threat, and let's be right, we've obviously had 18 plus contribution from Farmer, Cooper, Taylor, but as I said, for the actual goal that they've counted from, Negley's there right next to him in free space. All he has to do is throw it to Negley. Negley can take it down and whip it in, or draw the defender out to Negley, play it back to Sturge, and Sturge has the whole wing to run down and put across in. Like, you've missed out. If you don't meet the first man, you're missing out every single person in the box and the people on the edge. So I just don't understand. Maybe obviously he's still young, it's just experience, but surely after 3 tries, someone's telling him stop doing it.
Well, it must be a tactical thing, right? Because on the right-hand side, we never try to go long with Crummer because he just can't do it. His throw-ins are terrible. So we give it to Aziz. Aziz throws it to Negley. Negley passes it back to Aziz, and Aziz whips it in. We do that on pretty much every single throw on the right-hand side. So, yeah, to your point, just mirror it up. Just do the exact same thing on the left, because the long throws weren't working. The fact we then conceded from one is then almost just like the icing on the cake, really, isn't it? What was a bit of a shambolic afternoon.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as we all 3 of us saw, from then on, I've got to say, I didn't really look like we were going to score, to be honest with you. We did it. I mean, we made a couple of changes. Joe Bryan come on for Sturge, who had a really poor game. Sturge did struggle.
I still disagree with that in terms of taking him off.
You wouldn't take him off? You wouldn't?
Not
Sorry.
For not for Joe Bryan.
Right,
no
okay.
way. It's Sturge at his worst is still better than barista Joe Bryan. I don't understand why he's on. He has no legs and he actually has no effort to do anything. I don't understand why he's come on. Because even with Sturge playing at his worst, he was still giving us an outlet on the wing.
I don't know, mate. To be honest with you, I do think Sturge struggled, but I don't think Joe Bryan.
Yeah, I know. He struggled, but to me, it's like if Cobur's having a bad game, for example, even at his worst game, he's still more of a threat than a Langstaff, for example, let's say. So I would still keep a Coburn on. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're chasing a winner in the 90th minute, you're not taking off Coburn to throw on Langstaff.
No, of course you're not.
Do you know what I mean? And then in my eyes, going forward, you need to go see get an equaliser. You're not taking off Sturge, regardless of if he's been out of position or whatnot. Like Joe Bryan didn't enter into their half once in that whole game.
No. I can only assume that he brought on Bryan thinking he's got more of attacking outlet, and if we get a set piece, he could swing across it. It just didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't happen. He got caught out of the back in I think the first time he touched the ball, and we nearly go for a third down.
Yeah.
So
I think as well,
yeah.
the only chance we had after they scored was the Negli when they fell to Negli on the volley, and they got blocked just in front of the goal. Obviously, there was appeals for handball. I could actually see from above the goal whether it struck a hand. When I think it fell to him towards the end, and he hit it. And from my angle, I couldn't tell. It just looked like it hit bodies. But obviously, there was appeals for handball. But that's the closest we came to getting an equaliser.
It couldn't have got much further away from me, Matt, to be honest with you. So we would have been looking at you for an answer whether that's handball or not.
Yeah.
I got to say, it didn't look like handball from where I was. It looked like it's hitting.
No, that's it. All I can see is he's hit it. It's just hit bodies. But again, that's the closest we came, and even then, it was a snapshot. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those days at the office. But
and then the other subs that come on, Tommy Watson come on for Casper Denor. No surprise there. Obviously, came back from injury, and Derek Mazusaka come on for Bannon. I thought Mazusaka and Watson both really struggled. I know they're both young lads and they haven't had much game times in the last couple of weeks. But you're looking at that bench, and on the bench you had Ballo, Bryan, Crocombe, Ivanovic, Langstaff, Leonard, Mazusaka, McNamara, and Watson. There's not much there for me. When you're sitting there going, we need to chase the game in the last 10. I don't know who in that list you're really looking at thinking, right, they're going to change the game. And that's the only thing I can really say in Alex Neil's defence of why he brought Joe Bryan on. Maybe he just looked at him and thought, he's experienced. He's experienced and he can cross a ball in theory. And it's just a desperation move because no one else did anything, did they?
No. I mean, I do feel bad for Watson in a sense of, for example, if we brought him on and moved Negli into the middle when we had scored, maybe he would have had a chance. Because one, we were actually having attacks, and we had players we were actually feeding it wide. When he came on, we didn't attack, and we weren't. It was more a case of here's a lumped ball, go and chase it. So, and all right, he started against Hull and had a bad, first half, but he's not had minutes. He can't get in the team, and when he does come on, we're throwing him into moments where we're not having the ball. You can tell, he's a player, and obviously you can tell that because he played for England under 21s, and he's obviously scoring braces. I mean, you're not going to score a brace for England under 21s.
You're a bad player. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But throwing him on with 10 minutes to go, and you're basically saying like, here's a ball, go and chase it and go and do something. No, don't get me wrong. He wasn't sprinting around trying to get the ball himself, but I do feel like we can't really put much on him. Say for Derek, he came on and you basically told just to sit there and clear the ball. So it's a difficult one. So
it is a tricky one. Matt, I want to get your thoughts on the subs, mate. But I think for me, I am sympathetic for Watson and Derek. I don't think either of them had a lot of game time. But you're coming to a side that's doing quite well and we're doing quite well. Options and opportunities are going to be limited. I don't think either of them have done enough today to sit there and say, right, we're going to make a claim for getting back into the side. What I do think was interesting as well is Langstaff. We needed a goal when Langstaff didn't come on, which I think maybe tells you quite a lot about where Alex Neil sees his future at the club.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought I saw him stripped off at one point. I think it was when Bryan went down with his ankle. I thought I saw Langsdorff stripped off, ready to go, but no, you're chasing the game, and yeah, you bring on arguably two, well, two defensive subs in Brian and Masusaku, and then obviously Watson came on. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think with the Masusaku one, I think personally speaking, I mean, I don't know what he's. I know he played in the French second division. Has he played in
Yeah.
sort of like biggish, like event, like big games like our games are at the moment? Could he handle the pressure? Young lad, you know, in that middle of the park, one of the most important positions on the pitch, in my opinion, because it's the work ethic. You know, all right, we've seen glimpses of him prior to his injury against Birmingham. Funny, was it? Yeah, against Birmingham, that he's shown signs of that. But I don't know whether it's just a case of he's one for next year, so to speak. Hence why he probably didn't get into the game. Brian, yeah, again, you're right. I mean, personally speaking, if you wanted someone with a bit of an outlet, would you would you have put Danny Mack on as a left back? I don't know. Would you just charge your arm with him as opposed to Joe Bryan? But Joe Bryan is a natural left back. That's the sort of like for like replacement on that one. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was interesting where Langstaff didn't come on. Who he would have come on for? You know, that's that pass. It the only one I could have think of would have been Negley but then you're taking an attacking player off and another attacking player on. So, you know, that's probably of a lesser quality than Negley. It's just the fact that he'd have a lot of legs, a lot of running around, and you know, potentially could hit his arse or something and gone in the back of net. You just don't know. But what's interesting about that bench, and it's funny you reeled off those names, Frankie. Is like I was thinking in my head whilst you guys were talking. So it's 5 of them players won't be with us next year. So you know, it should be an opportunity for these guys that are on the bench that arguably either are out of contracts in the summer or just are not in the thought process to put a name for themselves, put them out in the shop window, so that when it comes to the new season, they'll be able to find a team that you know would be worthy, like a number of clubs. So it's I looked at that bench and I was just like nothing apart from the sub, because I do like and Watson, and to retrospect a little bit of Delboy. The rest of them I was like, oh god, nothing says to me, well, I'm just going to get off my seat. That's for certain. And you know, it's always been our downfall. I mean, but we've had times where we've had a really good bench. You know, I don't know where our fidelity is in sort of like in his recovery. I don't know whether he'll be in the frame to be pushing for a start. You know, come Friday, it'd be good to see him back. You know, because he is missed, and I do think he is missed when we don't see him. Whether Billy Mitch, I don't know the extent of his injury. You know, will he be back? Because we did miss that engine S type player there. So yeah, I think we was running on a little bit on running on fumes a little bit in terms of our bench. When you look at who we had on the bench, so yeah, it just wasn't sort of like there was uninspiring subs. Let's just put it like that. And I think the only one that was inspiring was who scored the goal, really. So yeah, let's just hope we get some more players that could get back on that bench and put a bit more of an opposing threat on the starting 11.
No, Joe, I've got to say I agree with what Dan said here. I mean, I think we're reaping the rewards from a really poor January window. And I think the bench kind of showed that today. And I've got to say again, I just think it's interesting. We're chasing the game. We've got 10 minutes to go. I'm not sure who they'll take off, to be honest with you. But you've got Ballo, who is in theory a attacking option, and you've got Langstaff, who was brought in as a goal scorer, and neither of them got on the pitch. I mean, to your point, Matt, I mean, you're looking at some of these players and you're thinking, well, Ballow's in on loan. Surely we can't be signing him if he can't get on the pitch today. And Watson did, who's not really had any impact since he joined Millwall, really. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting situation. I'm sure Dan said here, what players do we think will be here at the end of the season? dare I say we haven't got time to go through it tonight, but I think it's definitely an interesting conversation to see quite how many of that squad will actually be staying, particularly out of the loans. So I don't think any of the loans have really worked, maybe with the exception of Anthony Patterson. But
Well, it
when we move
depends
into
on
our
what
next
league we're in. It depends
well,
what
of
league we're
course
in,
it does.
Frankie.
Yeah.
That's it, mate.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But we'll move into our next segment then, which is the match stats. So, despite really poor first half, actually, we finished the game with 46% possession. So it just goes to show in the second half, we actually did put our foot on the ball a lot better and played in there off the pitch. XG could be a bit of a misleading one, but not today it weren't. Ours was 0.92. Norwich was 2.19. So the goals pretty much exactly mirrored the XG stat there. We had 10 shots on target. They had 12. We only had 2. Oh, sorry, we had 10 shots. They had 12. On target, we had 2 and they had 5. Touches inside the opposition box, just to touch on what Charlie was saying earlier, we just didn't get forward enough and create much of a threat. Norwich had 24 touches inside our box. We had 14. So, again, we kind of got what we deserved in that sense.
Yeah.
Norwich had more corners. We committed more fouls. Patterson had to make more saves, to make 3 saves in total. It's very rare that you look at the match stats of a game and it almost reflects exactly what you saw on the pitch. But dare I say, them stats do reflect exactly how that game went, didn't it, boys?
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
we sit here week in, week out, always say how stats are misleading.
Misleading. Yeah. Not Stone,
But yeah, not today, no. Pretty much. It's always a case of I still feel like, we are in a very in league table standard side of things. If obviously before today we were second, but if you actually go squad by squad, I don't even think we're probably in the top 5 in terms of squads. So we are very much
Probably not.
produced. No, I'd have obviously the top 3 that is probably now, and you also got the likes of Southampton and the players that we have to bring on. Like we saw it when we played Ipswich at home. They brought on Clark. That's 20 million just to bring on as a sub. We haven't even spent that across the squad. So the players that we are competing with and against are, I'm not saying we can't compete against Norwich. Look at where Norwich are in the league, and there's no reason to be saying that our players aren't better than theirs, obviously. But in terms of like match winners to bring on and players that will change the game, as you said, Matt, Ivanovic is the only one today. You look at that bench and go, he can win us the game or do something in the game.
Yeah.
The others are there. They're just part and parcel of being in the past squads from the last few years, or obviously just not being enough, but we've got injuries. So it is a difficult one. And yeah, with looking at the stats, it pretty much tells you a story. You probably, I think everyone's kind of worked it out now. You block out Femi Aziz, there's no creativeness, there's no goals.
True.
It is what it is. So we are a very one-dimensional team. Just we are very hard-working and we are the one-dimensional, but we're just very lucky that dimension is extremely talented and obviously seems to keep finding ways to prop us up.
No, I think we've been a little bit fortunate at different times throughout the season, whether it's been Aziz answering the question when we've needed him. There was a couple of weeks where Crammer and Cooper were just getting goals and assists for each other seemingly every game. And then recently, Josh Coburn's obviously been much improved and he's been sort of answering the call. A lot of players have turned up and showed up for us this season when we've needed them. And we're going to need someone to do it again in the next 5 games because there's so much to play for. And hopefully, someone that we haven't named, someone else is going to start bagging some games, whether that be the Serb, whether that be Watson, Ballo, I don't really care. But if someone could start adding some more goals, I think we could. I still think we can do a lot this season. I still think there's so much to play for. And despite today being a really, really poor result, we are still in a really good position. And I still think it's not in our hands. It's obviously in Ipswich's hands now. But they'll drop points. They will 100% drop points. They should have dropped points today. I mean, quite how that goal was ruled off for Birmingham. If you haven't seen it, check it out in the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
Never off. Never went off. You could see it in real time. It didn't go off. So they were a poor refereeing decision away from dropping points today. Suddenly our result was like actually that we've got away with it a little bit because Borough and Ipswich should have both drew. We weren't that fortunate, but it could have been far worse. We'll move on to our last segment then, which was the man of the match. good luck. I have absolutely no idea. I went through the whole team and I genuinely don't know who I'd give man a match to. So we'll try and come to a consensus of who was Millwall's best player today. I mean, Charlie, have you got anyone you want to mention?
No. If I'm honest with you, no.
You have to.
I mean,
you have to, mate.
There's only 3 players today that I even bothered turning up, and so I guess I've got to go for one of them 3. But I'm gonna have to go for Bannon. I think he's the only one that tried to make things work. He was the only one that was kind of offering and doing the hard work. So I just feel like I have to go. It's more of a pity vote rather than a he's a standout, because it's not hard to stand out in the team to play today. So I mean, you can go for Bannon. You can obviously go for Ivanovic for getting the goal. But to be fair,
Dan's commented saying we've got a comment from Dan Riggs. Agree with you, Barry Bannon.
Yeah, I think Bannon, to be fair.
Matt, what's your thoughts, mate? Who'd you give man a match to?
I'm thinking. No. I mean, yeah, Bannon done really well. Served with the goal. I think to a lesser extent, I'd rather give it to him because I think he hasn't had a man of the match performance or hasn't won any man of matches. I think Negley again, although he was a bit off the pace, but I think it's a really tough one to decipher. I mean, even anyone at the back really wouldn't get it.
No,
I'll go with Bannon.
Okay. We've got a consensus saying you two both go with Barry Bannon, so he will be the winner. For what it's worth, my vote was going to be for Camille Negley. I thought out of everyone, he as tried to do over the show, he always puts shift in, he always runs back a lot. He did it against Day. And I actually think out of everyone, he maybe had a bit more quality on the ball and showed us a little bit. Tried another Rabona, didn't quite work this time, but he at least did his bit right. But that is the show. So for anyone that's tuned in this to us live, we do apologise for any technical issues we may have had throughout the night. Hopefully it weren't too painful. For those that have commented, massive thank you for joining the conversation. It does help see shows go smoothly, and it's always good to get other Millwall fans' thoughts on the day's proceedings. We have got more content coming your way throughout the week. We've got the cool-down, or the warm-up, for our upcoming game against Brom. But thank you for everyone for tuning in. This has been the 1885 show. See you on the next one.